Let's get started with Tony Bachman. Tony Bachman, Team Keller Williams. He's served as our keynoter over the last 4 or 5 years. Leaders change. Tony's right here. What about this weekend?
Good morning,
Give us
Bill.
the latest trend.
Yeah, well, I think we talked last week a little bit, and I said, we were just starting to see a little bit of the fall. Just like the changing colors of the trees and foliage, we have a change in our real estate market to a certain degree in reference to what's happening out there in the marketplace. I mean, I think that what we see is we still have some demand. I mean, the numbers are all really good at this point. It's just that the marketplace is different in September, October than it is when we're talking about numbers in May, June, July. And so at this point, I mean, I still see some good things happening out there, and the numbers reflect that.
Now, the other thing that we're seeing was the language that was used that it's not scary like Halloween is in October.
Right.
And it appears to be bright and thankful for Thanksgiving, a little holiday giving at Christmas, and that'll close the year.
Yeah. Well, and so talking about that, I mean, one of the things that we discussed a little earlier was the one of the numbers that really stood out in our market overview for the month was the inventory, the housing affordability index. The housing affordability index for people that are out there buying right now is up about 9% from last year, which is amazing because we keep talking about how prices have been increasing. I think the average median price is increased like this year somewhere close to 4%.
Let's ask Brad about that. Brad Stern's here.
Yeah.
He's president of the association. What he's brought up is kind of an interesting trend. Have you found that?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers don't lie, and that's what we're seeing right now. So it's the change in seasons, too. So,
yep. I think interest rates have a lot to do with that. I mean, that's helpful. But the other part that, we've been looking at is the low unemployment rate, wages have gone up, or, the tax savings that some people have experienced. That has had effect in all of this, which is the housing affordability index is wonderful to see that be where it's located right now. I mean, it's been going up.
Well, I'm going to mention 3 communities, and these numbers just came in. They're not going to be on the blog, but Harrisburg, for the year, up 33% in homes sold. That's a pretty big increase from 105 to 140. New listings, it's up almost 15%, and they have 223 new listings on the marketplace. That's pretty interesting.
Well, Harrisburg is now becoming really close to Sioux Falls because the border between Sioux Falls and Harrisburg just keeps getting closer every week, every month. But also they've opened up, like we've talked about, they've opened up some areas where they have new developments. The new developments is drawing people in, and so that's where I think a lot of those numbers are being reflected. The other thing is you're seeing, some of the new businesses have gone up. They have a grocery store down there, and they have some other amenities, so people don't have to drive to Sioux Falls to
and that's
get
what
their
they've wanted.
Yeah, I mean,
they wanted water and grocery stores.
Yeah, Fairway, and then their school system is amazing. So it's not surprising to see where people are looking at that community.
Del Rapids, they've had more flooding this year than anybody else. And as I was looking at these numbers when Mark Tooley got them to us, in the last half hour this morning, they came in just a tad later than some of the others. We find that closed sales up from 52 to 59. You say, well, that's not a big deal. It's for almost 14%. And the new homes up from 82 to 93, which means there is inventory there, Tony.
Yeah, well, and I think Del Rapids over the last couple of years, people have been looking at that marketplace because of some of the same reasons that Harrisburg is, because they have this nice community where they have a lot of their amenities right there that they can get to. People like the smaller school system. And anymore, I mean, we just went up there on Saturday night to go up to the newer restaurant, Papa's Pub, that's up there. And it was busy, and the main street was busy. So it was encouraging to see, just all the activity up there.
Hartford, from 41 to 46. They've been below the curve all year long. They're now 12% above. But the number of new listings has gone from 55 to 87. And whereas we're talking about some of these percentage of original list price being off a little bit from a year ago, Hartford is actually up to 98% from 97 a year ago. Again, interesting numbers.
Right. I think, when you talk about people looking outside of the Sioux Falls marketplace, you see these communities. I mean, when we're talking about the Hartfords, the Harrisburgs, the Brandons, and Brandon numbers are another. There's a lot of activity going on there. But like with Del Rapids, you're talking about the floodwaters. Yes, it's been tough on some of those residents up there. But when they talk about that, it's not like the whole town was flooded. You had a couple streets that were
and
affected.
Water goes up and down.
Right. So that part, I think the water, we're just all kind of coming to terms with it, with where we're at, and just dealing with it accordingly. But Hartford, yeah, that's your hometown. Maybe Bill Zortman with It's Your Business is having an effect on that community.
I don't know. It's either me or the guy that's putting out green light bulbs to everybody in town because it has made a big difference. You saw some other trends. We got about 3 or 4 minutes.
Sure. So we talked about the affordability index. The median price, on average for the year is up 4.2%. We're talking about supply and demand. Now, we've been down on our inventory, and so that, inventory of homes for sale, we're down currently from last year to this year, we're down 7%. So, the supply and demand is playing a factor here in reference to this. It's just that, and then pending sales, here's the other thing. I think we're playing catch up. We've talked about this because things were a little slower earlier in the year because of the winter and water and that sort of thing. Pending sales are up 22.4% from last year to this year. So, again, we're back to that conversation we started this was real estate in fall is not looking that scary because we just have a lot of positive numbers that are going, not only for Sioux Falls, but for the outlying communities. The fact of the interest rates being what they are, very appealing to someone who either is looking to downsize, someone who needs a home that's going to fit their family, so they need to upsize, or if you're just looking at making a lateral move and going to something with an HOA, because we talk about HOAs all the time.
You had somebody ask you, can we find a house for $170,000 on the west side of Sioux Falls? And you kind of chuckled. Why?
Well, and so with these numbers, the other part is this is why it's good to talk to somebody who's in the business. And even though we're in it on a daily basis, and I'm sure Brad can agree with this, is the fact that I'm always surprised in what's happening in certain little segments of the market. When someone says, hey, I would like to find a home for $170,000 west of I-29, there's not very many viable options that are out there. Now, if you're looking to find something that is in the central part of town or east side of town, we have a number of options. So that's the part when you're having these conversations with a real estate professional or someone to basically help you with that. But I've had conversations with a number of people who'd love to be over in the west side of town. There just isn't that many options that are out there.
And the builders, and I think when we talk with Dusty, he would kind of emphasize what our remodelers did a couple of weeks ago, that there's a lot of cry for their services. And trust me, they're going to build where they can make a profit, they can sell the home, and they can make a difference. And it's probably not that cheaper range.
No, you're looking at, when you're talking about new construction, there are a few of them that are out there. When I guess I'd say to the point of 250 or less, there are some options that are out there, but not very many. You're going to find new construction is typically going to be somewhere between 300 to 500 for new construction for most of the options that are out there.
Open houses still work?
Yeah, we're still busy. I think over the weekend we had 3 open houses and we had good traffic. I had a higher priced home that I was at, and we still had a couple people that showed up. And they were actively looking for homes, So I think it's definitely worth being out there because I always tell my team, it only takes one person to walk in the door that says, this home makes sense for our family.
And sometimes it's better to move in before the snow flies. It might happen this week, but for the most part, it should be November or December.
It's just a shot across the bow just to warn us that we got to get prepared for winter. So I put a little post out on our Facebook page saying, hey, here's 15 things you might want to consider to get ready for winter. So,
all right, get the shovel out. Might be on that list.
Just get it set next to the garage door or wherever so it's easy and accessible along with your snowblower. That way, hopefully you don't have to use it until middle of December.
Tony Bachman, Team Keller Williams. How do they find you, Tony?
Yeah, our Facebook page is Tony Bachman Group. My cell number is 605-201-5998. And website is TonyBachmanGroup.com.
All right, we're going to bring in the Prezes. Let's see what they have to say. They're in the last quarter of the year. Both of them going to leave office before the year is up.